Everyone in Maplewood said Amber Wilson had the perfect family. A mother who baked pies for church bake sales, a father who waved at every neighbor and fixed bikes for the kids on the block. Their house was the kind people stopped to take pictures of. White picket fence, fresh tulips every spring, and a front door that looked like it belonged on a holiday card. On the outside, everything looked perfect, the kind of life most girls would dream of. But Amber didn't feel like she was living in a dream. She felt like she was performing in someone else's script. Her mother, Susan, was a master of appearances, always smiling, always composed. She ran the church bake sale like a corporate CEO. Her hugs were warm, but her eyes were cold. Everything had to be perfect. And Amber, she had to be perfect too. Her father, Harold, was softer, a quiet man with a kind smile. He mowed the lawn every Saturday morning, waved to passing cars, and fixed the broken mailbox for the old couple down the street. But when Susan spoke, Harold fell silent. People looked at the Wilsons and saw stability. They didn't see the script. They didn't hear the silence. And they definitely didn't know that Amber's windows would one day be nailed shut from the outside. But even perfect houses have locked doors. And Amber was about to realize that the family she belonged to wasn't protecting her. It was preparing to trap her. Amber was just 7 when the rules began. Rules that weren't written down. Rules that weren't explained. Rules that changed depending on her mother's mood. She couldn't choose her clothes. Her outfits were picked the night before, laid out on a chair like she was a doll, being dressed by someone else. She had to speak softly, no shouting, no giggling too loud. Even the way she laughed had to be appropriate. Every friend had to be screened, background checked, questioned, judged by a woman with a perfect manicure and a smile that never quite reached her eyes. Her room wasn't hers. The door was locked from the outside at night, for safety, her mother said. Then came the windows. First, they were sealed, then nailed. She asked once, "Why can't I open them?" The answer was always the same. "There's nothing out there for you, Amber. You're safest inside." But she didn't feel safe. She felt contained. And the worst part, she didn't even know that wasn't normal. At first, Amber thought her parents were just cautious. She believed what they said, that the world was dangerous, that she was too sensitive for chaos, that their rules were a form of love. But love doesn't make you afraid to speak. Love doesn't require surveillance cameras or locked doors. And slowly, painfully, Amber began to notice the cracks. It started when she visited a friend's house. The girl opened her fridge without asking. She laughed freely, played loud music behind a closed door. Her mom simply smiled and said, "Have fun." That moment was a jolt. It was the first time Amber realized other kids lived differently. When she got home, her house felt colder, not because of the air, but because she knew this wasn't normal. She began testing the boundaries, asking quiet questions, making small observations. But every time she questioned something, her mother smiled tighter. Her father looked away, and Amber was reminded once again that asking too much meant risking everything. Then came the day she leaned against her bedroom window. The breeze outside was beautiful. The air smelled like spring. She wanted to open it just for a second, but it didn't budge, not an inch. She looked closer. That's when she saw it. Not a lock, not glue, but a nail. A thick silver nail hammered straight through the frame. And just like that, everything changed. I thought they were protecting me until I saw the first nail. Most kids complain when their parents say no. No to video games, no to sleepovers, no to eating candy before dinner. Amber's life was filled with no, but not the usual kind. No sports, too dangerous. No birthday parties, too many bad influences. No clubs, no school trips, no staying late, no closed doors. Every time she asked, the answer was the same. "We're just keeping you safe." But safety started to feel like a sentence. Amber wasn't just sheltered, she was caged. Her mother monitored everything. Every phone call was on speaker. Every text was checked. Every online search logged. Then came the cameras, hidden in corners, disguised in smoke detectors. She found one inside a lamp near her bed. She stared at it, blinking, realizing someone had been watching her sleep. She confronted her parents. Her mother didn't deny it. "You wouldn't need to be monitored if we could trust you," she said calmly. "Your behavior is becoming concerning." That word again, concerning. Amber had learned what that word meant in their house. It didn't mean danger. It meant disobedience. And disobedience was punished with control. It started with a pill, a small white tablet handed to her with breakfast. "It's just for your anxiety, sweetheart," her mother said, voice warm, eyes unreadable. "The doctor says it'll help." Amber had never met that doctor. She didn't remember ever being diagnosed with anything. But when she asked questions, her mother looked hurt. "We've noticed your moods lately. You cry for no reason. You say things that don't make sense. You don't even remember it afterward." Amber froze. She didn't remember any of that, which only made her wonder, what if they were right? The pills continued, morning and night. They made her drowsy, foggy, detached. She couldn't concentrate in class anymore. Her grades slipped. Her teachers looked concerned. But her mother always had an explanation ready. "Medication adjustment," she'd say. "We're working through some things." Soon, Amber began to doubt her own memories. She'd try to recall a conversation and second-guess herself. She'd feel sadness, but couldn't explain why. She'd forget what day it was. Her thoughts didn't feel like hers anymore. They felt curated, rewritten. She looked in the mirror one morning and didn't recognize the girl staring back. Tired, pale, eyes heavy with doubt. That's when she realized they weren't just locking the doors and sealing the windows. They were rewriting her entire mind. Amber didn't lose her friends. They were taken from her systematically. First, it was the little things. Mothers who suddenly said their daughters couldn't hang out. Text messages that stopped getting replies. Classmates who once laughed with her now looked away in the hallway. When she asked her mother why no one returned her calls, the answer came with a sigh. "You've been acting strange lately, Amber. Maybe they're just overwhelmed. Or maybe their parents are worried about your condition." Her condition. That phrase followed her like a shadow. Soon her teachers stopped expecting her to speak up. They looked at her with quiet pity. The girl who used to raise her hand for every question now sat in silence. Her mother told the school counselor she was showing signs of emotional instability, that she'd been acting out and detaching from reality, that she needed space, monitoring, treatment, and the school believed her. The world began folding around Amber like a stage set being taken down piece by piece. Conversations felt rehearsed. Interactions became one-sided. Every attempt to explain herself only confirmed the image her mother had already painted. Amber tried to speak up, tried to say, "I'm not sick, I'm not unstable, I'm just trying to breathe." But her voice was no longer hers. The version of Amber that the world now saw wasn't real. It was curated, fabricated, approved by her parents. She stopped trusting her own memories. She stopped trusting her feelings. She even stopped trusting her instincts. And that's when the gaslighting worked, because the scariest prison is the one that makes you thank your captor. Her name was Jessica. She sat next to Amber in chemistry class. She liked space documentaries, wore mismatched earrings, and always smelled faintly of vanilla. Most kids saw Amber as the quiet girl, the one who never stayed after school, the one whose mom picked her up at exactly 3:05 every single day. But Jessica noticed something deeper. The way Amber flinched at sudden sounds, the way her hands trembled during group projects, the way she smiled but her eyes stayed frozen. One afternoon after class, Jessica leaned in and whispered, "You act like someone who's scared all the time. Are you okay?" Amber didn't know how to answer. No one had ever asked her that, not like that, not with real concern in their voice. So she nodded. then shook her head, then whispered, "I don't know." That's how it started. Small conversations in empty hallways, passing notes under desks, little moments where Amber felt seen. And then one day, Amber told Jessica the truth about the locked doors, the cameras, the pills, the window that wouldn't open. Jessica didn't say, "That's strange." She didn't say, "Are you sure?" She said, "That's abuse." And for the first time, Amber heard the word she'd never dared to speak. It didn't feel exaggerated. It felt right. Jessica offered to help. She said she could talk to her parents, that they could help Amber get out, that there were places, programs, shelters. Amber's hands shook at the idea of it. Escape, a life of her own. For the first time in years, something inside her flickered, a small, trembling flame of hope. Jessica had named it, and once something has a name, you can finally fight it. It didn't take long. Amber's mother noticed the change, the brighter eyes, the quieter defiance, the faint scent of freedom. She didn't scream. She didn't punish. She planned. One day, Amber found her school bag turned inside out. Her journal was missing. So was the small note Jessica gave her, the one that said, "You deserve more than survival." That night, her mother knocked gently on the door, smiling. Too softly. Too sweet. "We're so glad you've made a friend, Amber," she said. "But Jessica's parents just called. They said you threatened their daughter." Amber froze. "What?" "They said you've been obsessive, possessive, unsafe." Amber shook her head. "That's not true." But her mother didn't budge. She was calm, almost rehearsed. "I'm afraid this confirms what the doctors warned us about." The next morning, Jessica was gone. No goodbye, no note, not even a look across the hallway. The seat next to Amber sat empty for the rest of the semester. And every time Amber tried to ask the teacher, would say, "Let's focus on your own well-being, dear." The message was clear. Amber was now the threat. And just like that, her one lifeline was cut. Silently, strategically. Not with chains or locks, but with words that made others fear her. Her prison tightened, but this time, she was the monster. Amber didn't pack much. Just a sweatshirt, a granola bar, and the emergency phone Lauren gave her a neighbor who'd started to suspect something. She waited until midnight, shoes in hand, breath held, heart shaking. The back window had been partially unsealed for repairs. This was her chance. She slipped out into the cold Minnesota air, whispering her plan into the dark. Just get to the bus station. Just make it to sunrise. But halfway down the block, headlights blinded her. Her father's truck. Silent. Waiting. He didn't yell. He didn't ask questions. He just opened the door. "Amber, get in." Her legs refused, but her body moved anyway. The ride home was quiet. Too quiet. She could feel it. Something worse was coming. Back at the house, her mother stood by the door like she had been waiting all night. No tears, no relief, just cold calculation. They didn't scold her. They upgraded the prison. That night, they locked her bedroom from the outside. The window was nailed shut again. Her mother doubled her medication. "To stabilize your emotions," she said. Her emergency phone, gone. They searched her drawers, her mattress, even inside her pillowcase. Every exit sealed, every whisper monitored. Amber sat in the corner of her room, knees to her chest, the light from the hallway spilling in from under the door. And all she could think was, that night, they didn't just lock the door. They locked my future. It started with a squeak. Amber leaned against her bedroom window one afternoon, trying to catch a breeze. Summer in Minnesota could be brutal, humid, thick, and suffocating, but the window wouldn't budge, not an inch. That was strange. It had always opened before. She pressed harder. The wood didn't just resist, it groaned like it had been welded shut. Curious, she ran her fingers along the frame and felt something gritty. She peeled back a layer of paint. Her heart stopped. Thick, metallic nails. Industrial sealant. Not just glue, construction-grade adhesive. Her window hadn't been closed for safety, it had been sealed for containment. When she confronted her parents that night, her mother didn't flinch. "Oh, honey, that's just to keep out the summer drafts," she said, smiling sweetly. Amber stared at her. "Mom, it's June. There's no draft." Her father didn't look up from his crossword puzzle. "Nothing to worry about," he mumbled, but she could feel it. In the way their eyes didn't quite meet hers, in the way the air in the room felt thicker, in the sudden suffocating quiet, something was being planned, and this time it wasn't just control, it was something far more final. It was 2:13 a.m. when Amber woke up choking. At first she thought she was dreaming, but her room was thick with smoke, dense, black, and fast. It curled across the ceiling like a living thing, pouring down the walls in waves. She jumped out of bed. Her door handle burned her palm. Locked, sealed, it wouldn't turn. She ran to the window, heart pounding, coughing so hard she nearly collapsed. She reached for the latch, but it didn't exist. Nails, glue, screws. There was no way out. "Help!" she screamed, banging against the glass. But her voice was swallowed by the roar of smoke and the crackle of flames. And then she saw them, through the sliver between the blinds, two silhouettes. Her parents. Her mother closed the front door without a glance back. Her father started the car. The brake lights glowed red like devil eyes in the dark. And then they were gone. Gone, leaving their only daughter behind, with fire crawling toward her, with no way out, and no more illusions about love. The smoke was in her lungs now. Every breath was a blade, every second shorter than the last. Amber fell to the floor, searching blindly. Her fingers scraped under the air vent near her bed. That's where she hid it, her last lifeline, a burner phone, wrapped in an old sock. Hands shaking, fingers trembling. She dialed with muscle memory 911. The dispatcher's voice came through, calm but urgent. "911, what's your emergency?" Amber coughed so hard she saw stars. Then, "They nailed my windows shut," she gasped. "They want me to die." The line went silent for half a breath. Then, chaos. "Ma'am, stay with me." "What's your address? Help is on the way!" Sirens screamed in the distance. Closer. Louder. And then, a crash of glass. Voices shouting. Strong arms pulling her out through the broken window. She looked up, dazed, coughing, barely conscious, and saw Lauren, her neighbor. Tears in her eyes, screaming at the firefighters. Her parents did this. I knew it. That night, Amber was saved, not just from the fire, but from a lifetime of silence. They sealed my windows, but they couldn't silence my scream. They thought the fire would be the end, but it was just the beginning. When investigators swept through the Wilson home, they didn't just find ash and smoke damage. They found something colder, calculated. In the basement filing cabinet, they found her mother's journal, a thick black book, every page an instruction manual for control. Lines like, "Must increase dosage. She's becoming resistant. Seal all exits. She won't get out again. If she runs, call her dangerous. Say it's the illness." Next came the cameras, tucked behind teddy bears, inside vents, one hidden inside a hollowed-out Bible. Every corner of Amber's life recorded, analyzed, judged. And then the prescriptions, dozens of bottles, all signed by a doctor who didn't exist. Fake names, fake labels, real drugs. What kind of mother does this? The police didn't need a confession. They had the evidence. And the truth was more horrifying than any lie Amber had ever been forced to believe. Amber walked into the courtroom wearing a borrowed blazer and 3 years of silent rage. Across the aisle sat her parents, once symbols of stability, now defendants in a case that chilled the entire state. Her mother wept on cue, handkerchief in hand, voice trembling, calling Amber sick, delusional, confused, claiming she was only trying to help her daughter heal. Her father, cool and composed, called it all a misunderstanding. He denied sealing windows, denied the cameras, denied the drugs. Surely, he said, this was just a cry for attention. But Amber didn't flinch. She looked straight into the eyes of the people who tried to erase her and didn't blink. "I'm not confused," she said. "I'm not broken. I survived you." And in that moment, the courtroom shifted. No longer was Amber the fragile girl with haunting eyes. She was the storm they couldn't contain. The courtroom fell silent as the 911 call played. Amber's voice, panicked, raw, shaking, echoed through the speakers. "They nailed my windows shut. They want me to die." No one moved, not even the jury, not even her parents. Then a sound broke the silence. Her mother laughed. A short, sharp, bitter laugh, as if the memory of Amber begging for her life was a joke. Gasps filled the room. Amber stared at her. And her mother, still wiping fake tears, looked right at the jury and whispered, "Real love doesn't give you independence. Real love keeps you." The mask slipped. Years of Sunday brunches, of PTA meetings, of choir solos and casserole fundraisers shattered. She didn't see it, but the jury did. The moment she laughed, Amber would later say, the courtroom finally saw the monster I always knew. Amber moved in with Lauren. No alarms, no cameras, no eyes watching from the dark. The first thing she did every morning was open every window in the house, even in winter, even when the wind bit at her skin. She opened them wide, just to remind herself she could. There were no locks anymore, not on the doors, not on her voice, not on her life. Breathing became her quiet rebellion, each inhale a silent declaration. I am free. I exist. I choose. And for the first time, freedom didn't feel like danger. It felt like light. Amber didn't just survive. She studied survival. She enrolled in night classes while working 2 jobs. She wrote essays about trauma, about gaslighting, about identity theft that doesn't happen with credit cards, but with love. Her thesis, Captivity Without Chains, Psychological Control in Familial Environments. She graduated with a master's in psychology, top of her class. But a diploma wasn't enough. Amber opened a nonprofit, not with investors, but with survivors, women who once thought, maybe I am crazy. Teens who whispered, this doesn't feel like love. Men who had no name for the ache in their gut. She gave them tools. She gave them language. She gave them back their own names. Pain didn't end her story. It wrote her mission. Amber no longer needed their apology, not because it wouldn't matter, but because it wouldn't heal her. She stopped chasing explanations, stopped wondering if her parents ever loved her the way she deserved. Some answers don't bring peace. They bring poison. So instead, she listened to her own breath, her own heartbeat, her own truth. She stopped asking, why me? And started whispering, I'm still here. And I'm mine. Amber never returned to the old house, but every now and then in her dreams, she still saw that room, the one with the sealed window. And in those dreams, she didn't cry, she didn't scream, she simply walked up to the glass, touched it gently, and said, you tried to trap me here, but I made my own exit, and now I don't need that window, because I opened a better one inside me. They nailed the window shut, but she opened a new one in her soul. To the one sitting quietly in your room, afraid to speak, afraid to breathe too loud, afraid that even your thoughts might betray you. I was you. I know what it's like to live inside a home where love is a weapon, where silence screams louder than words, and every smile hides a threat. I know what it's like to be told you're crazy just for noticing the cage you're in. They told me my feelings were wrong, that my fears were delusions, that my desire for freedom meant I was dangerous. But listen to me now. You are not dangerous. You are not broken. You are not alone. Your instincts are real. Your pain is real. And one day, your freedom will be real too. Because if I escaped, so can you. You don't need permission to survive. You don't need their blessing to be free. All you need is to believe one terrifying truth. You are not the problem. They are. If you're listening and something in your life feels off but no one else sees it, this is for you. Sometimes control doesn't look like a locked cage. It looks like kindness with conditions. It sounds like we're just protecting you, but it feels like walking on glass every day. Here are the red flags I wish someone told me earlier. Hidden cameras in your room for your safety. Being told your emotions are overreactions. Being given pills without clear answers. Feeling like every friendship is a threat to them. Slowly forgetting what your own voice sounds like. Being convinced you're mentally ill when you're just trying to breathe. Being praised only when you obey. Feeling more fear at home than in the outside world. These are not rules. These are not tough love. They are red flags, and they often come wrapped in smiles. If any of this feels familiar, trust your gut. Write it down. Talk to someone outside the circle. Because love should never make you smaller. Love should never require you to disappear. They called it love, but it looked a lot like prison. If no one has told you this yet, let me be the first. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining things. You are not hard to love. You are not crazy. You are human, and humans need air. They need space. They need truth. You deserve more than survival. You deserve peace. You deserve windows that open not just for air, but for your dreams, for your freedom, for the life you were always meant to live. Amber Wilson's story is not just hers. It belongs to anyone who was ever locked in without a key, who ever screamed but no one believed, who ever wondered if love was supposed to hurt this much. To you listening right now, don't wait for someone to rescue you. Rescue yourself, because you deserve to live a life where windows open. Not just to the air, but to your future. Amber's journey teaches us that true freedom starts from within. No matter how tightly others try to control us, whether through physical locks, emotional manipulation, or gaslighting, the power to reclaim our lives lies in trusting ourselves and speaking our truth. It reminds us to recognize the red flags of toxic control early and to never ignore the silent cries for help, whether from ourselves or those around us. Real love empowers. It does not imprison. Most importantly, Amber's story shows that healing is possible and that our past does not define our future. By embracing courage and resilience, we can open new windows that lead to hope, growth, and a life fully our own. If Amber's story moved you, please subscribe to our channel for more real-life survivor stories that inspire hope and strength. Hit the like button if you believe in freedom and healing, and share this video with someone who needs to know they are not alone. Leave a comment below. Your voice matters, and your story could be the light that guides someone else out of darkness. Together, let's break the silence and build a community where every soul is free.